Welcome back to the Todd Durkin Impact Show, the podcast dedicated to lighting you up with inspiration, motivating you to be better in all areas of your life, and igniting action inside of you so that you can ultimately create more impact in this world that so desperately needs you. On every Impact Show, we dive into mindset, health set, leadership, and something personal so that I can coach you to be the very best version of yourself. With that, it's time to dive into today's Impact Show episode. What's up, podcast family? I hope you're having a great time on today's podcast. Why? Well, because I got huge breaking news today. After over 20 years of coaching, mentoring, and training the minds of elite athletes, youth athletes, CEOs, and everyday warriors just like you, I'm pumped to officially announce the launch of something I've been working on for the last 3+ years. It's called the Get Your Mind Right Mindset Coaching Certification. Yeah, Get Your Mind Right Mindset Coaching Certification, and it's now officially live. The truth is, today's athletes are different. They're under more pressure. They're more anxious. They're starving for connection, confidence, and even more clarity. That's why I created this course for the modern day coach who wants to lead on an even deeper level. And I didn't do it alone. I teamed up with my man, Andrew Simpson, one of the best youth mindset coaches in the game and someone who I've worked with for over a decade now. And we've partnered together with the legends over at Team Builder to bring this vision to life. This is an asynchronous program. That just means you go at your own pace. And it's not just for athlete coaches. It's for parents, teachers, coaches, and yes, even athletes who want to learn how to coach the mind and transform more lives. And listen, if you're interested, take action now, and you're going to get in at the very special early bird price of just $399 smackaroos. That's right, just $399. Plus, you're going to get access to insane bonuses, live coaching calls, a private community with other members, and tons of free resources. And oh, don't forget, you get the podcast too. So if you've ever wanted to coach with more impact, more purpose, and more tools in your toolbox, now is the time. This is your moment. Go to GYMR Coaching. That's GYMRcoaching.com to learn more of how you can become a certified mindset coach today. That's GYMRcoaching.com. Welcome back to another episode of the Todd Durkin Impact Show. And let me tell you what, y'all better buckle up your bootstraps today because I got one for you today that is going to rock you. I am so fired up right now as I record this. I just got back from an amazing trip to Canada and the East Coast. Love the East Coast, love Canada, and let me tell you what, you're in for a treat today. Have you ever had a day that was like the highest of highs and the lowest of lows all within a day? Or maybe even a week? Maybe you're having a month right now in the midst of summer, and you're like, wow, if you only knew, Todd, if you only knew some of the highs and some of the lows. Well, I just had that. And as you hear today's episode, you're going to hear what was preceded by me having a 24-hour trip to the East Coast, Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada. Shout out, love y'all. But I got stuck in an airport, had to sleep in an airport. You're going to hear about that. But while that was the low of lows, I had the amazing opportunity to speak with 56 of our highest enlisted men and women of the United States Marine Corps, Simplify, Do or Die, and it was awesome. Highlight of my year thus far was speaking to these Marines, these sergeant majors, in what was just an epic experience between not only the talk, but also the Marine Corps parade at the barracks, the 8th and I parade. A few things that I'm going to share today that I want you to really listen into. I want you to think about adversity you're facing now. How do you make adversity your advantage? I want you to think about high performance leadership. And I'm going to touch on high performance leadership and what does it mean? Because when speaking with these men and women of the United States Marine Corps, man, oh man, am I fortunate, and are we fortunate to have these men and women fighting for our freedom. So we put our head on the pillows. It's going to rest a little bit easier than normal. And think about impact. How are you living impactful right now? What are the things that you're doing, whether it's speaking, writing, leading your companies, whatever your role is, as a parent potentially? How are you impacting your family now and the future generations to come on all aspects? And you've been hearing me say it lately more than ever before. Get your mind right. How do you get your mind right when your mind ain't right? How do you rebound when you just had a low of lows? You got to go on stage and rebound and share your message on that. So all of that is coming up in today's episode. I hope that you enjoy it. And if you have not yet subscribed to my text community, do so now and let me know what you think. The number 619-304-2216. That is my text number. Text me. I love when I hear from you and you're like, TD, this one spoke to me, this resonated with me, or you have questions for future episodes. Again, my text number, I will read it, 619-304-2216. Hit me up. Let me know what you think. And without further ado, this one is from the sunny skies, 35,000 feet as I reflect upon my trip to Canada and the East Coast. Let's go to 35,000 feet right now and Impact Airlines and your captain speaking. Here we go.
This is your captain speaking, and welcome to Flight 1010 on Impact Airlines. We're en route from Baltimore, Washington International Airport to San Diego on an absolutely beautiful day in late July 2025. We're at 35,000 feet, cruising nice and high, nice and smooth, and welcome to the Impact Show podcast. Hey guys, what's up? Todd Durkin here, and hey, for the next few minutes, I want to share some personal lessons here from the last 5 days on what I'm calling the dichotomy of keynote speaking. The dichotomy of keynote speaking, because sometimes when people think of a keynote speaker, you think of all the fancy dinners and parties and, the glitz and glamour that it seems to be. But so many times it's not that. And for the 1 hour keynote or 90-minute keynote talk that one may give, I wanted to share this up from 35,000 feet as I sit here looking out the window, because I'm coming off one of the lowest lowlights of my keynote speaking career, along with one of my highlights, if not the highlight of my keynote speaking career, all in one trip. And sometimes that's the way it goes, but for those of you who are speaking or traveling, it's not always what it's cut out to be. And I just want to share a story. First, I'll share the low light, because it was a low light. And I had the great opportunity to keynote in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, here just a few days ago. And from San Diego to Halifax, it's quite a trip. I was leaving at 8:30 in the morning. I was getting in there at 9 p.m. at night. Now, there's a 4-hour time difference, but it was going to be a long day. Well, I'll fast forward and preface it by simply saying this is my first flight from San Diego to what would have been Boston was delayed by almost 2 hours, which would have made me miss my connecting flight in Boston. Therefore, I was rerouted to Toronto, Canada. Well, that flight to Toronto was going to leave 5 hours later, so I figured I'd hunker down in San Diego to get some work done, which I did. Got to Toronto with 2 hours to spare to connect into Halifax, Canada on Tuesday night. Well, this is where it gets real interesting, because the plane sat on the runway for an hour, so I was down to an hour. Then I had to get my bags, or so I was told, to get my bags to go through customs. So I waited there 20 minutes till the bag didn't come. Bags never came. And then I got through customs. I had a half hour left, but because it was late at night, we had to go outside the airport to come back in through TSA, which is never good, which was about a 30-yard line to get through TSA. So fortunately, I was able to cut the line because my flight was getting close. I got through the line with 15 minutes to spare. I sprinted through the airport, got there about 9 minutes before the flight was supposed to take off, sweating profusely, and the door had already shut. I guess in Canada, they don't have any leeway time, and the door shuts 15 minutes before takeoff time. And when that door shuts, I don't know if you've ever been there or not, but that door does not open. So it's 10:30 at night. I'm looking at the gate retracted. I'm looking at my plane sitting right there. I mean, I could throw a football through the front windshield of the plane, and I wasn't allowed to get on the plane. So here it is. It's 10:30 at night, Toronto, and I was rebooked onto a 6 a.m. flight. Well, I wasn't in any mood to leave the airport, find a hotel, and sleep for 3 or 4 hours and go back. So I decided I was going to sleep in the airport. Well, if you've ever slept in the Toronto airport, hopefully not, it is loud, like really loud. I didn't sleep but maybe 45 minutes that night on a bench with my knees tucked over the arm chairs. And I'm just going to say it was a really bad night. Certainly not one that was good for my back or my sleep. And worse off, I didn't even get to Halifax till 10 a.m. the next day. So why do I share that? Because most people don't ever think about when you're speaking and you're traveling and delays and planes, trains, and automobiles that sometimes you miss flights or flights are delayed, or every now and then you have to sleep in an airport overnight. I do believe that's the first time I've slept in an airport, at least to my recollection in my professional career. I'm sure I've done it when I was in my 20s and traveling all over the world, but I don't ever remember sleeping in the airport. And man, it crushed me on Wednesday. Fortunately, one of the lessons I've learned in speaking is always build a day on the front side if you can to allow for these types of mishaps. So fortunately, I had built the extra day in. Now that extra day where I was hoping to go see some of Halifax, which is a beautiful city, and maybe even a lighthouse because there's some great lighthouses there, that didn't happen because I ended up sleeping for a decent portion of the day, meaning I got maybe 3 hours sleep during the day because I had some calls and meetings I had to be on the Zoom. Well, I'll just share this. On that following day, Thursday, despite little sleep, I crushed the talk to Supplement King, which is a supplement retail shop throughout all of Canada. Shout out to my friends at Supplement King. They absolutely rocked and brought the heat. And I share that with you because some of you folks who travel or even speak, just know that sometimes keynote speaking isn't all glamour and glitz that it appears to be, because as I fly back to San Diego right now, I'm like, man, that was one of the lowest of my lows as a speaker. Now, at the same token, when I left Halifax on Thursday afternoon, I literally spoke and had to leave because I had the great fortune to speak to the United States Marine Corps. Yes, the United States Marine Corps. And when I arrived Thursday night into Washington, D.C., and took a car down to Annapolis, Maryland, where this event was taking place at the Naval Academy. For those of you who may not be as familiar with the vernacular in the military, or specifically in the U.S. Marine Corps, is this was the Sergeant Major's Symposium. Sergeant Major is the highest ranking enlisted Marine out there, and they get tremendous respect. They get tremendous respect from all of the enlisted Marines because they're the highest ranking enlisted, and they get a tremendous amount of respect also from the officers, because the officers know that these guys and gals, these are the ones, the sergeant majors, they are in battle. They are on the battlefield calling shots, seeing things that most people have never seen in their lifetime. And here I am getting the opportunity to speak to them. Now, I share this because when I walked in that room Friday morning, I thought to myself, who am I? Who am I to speak to these close to 60 men and women who are leaders in our country, some of the highest performers of any kind, whether it be entrepreneurs, athletes, or even military. These are the highest leaders. And here I am getting the chance to speak to them. And one of the sergeant majors and Master Gunnery Sergeant Dan Jackson said, "Man, we are so honored to have you speak here, Todd." I said, honored for me to be here. I'm honored to speak to the Marine Corps. Well, I got to tell you this. One of the highlights of my career was speaking to those men and women and having close to 60 eyes locked, absolutely locked in to what I was saying for the entire 60 minutes. Now I knew I didn't want to go a minute over because these guys, the attention to detail, the precision in everything they do. When it was time to giddy up and sit down, the leader, Sergeant Major Ruiz, who's the 20th Sergeant Major in the Marine Corps, man, he made his call, and it was time for him to get him going. It was time. So when I spoke, and I had these men and women locked in, I really spoke of four things. Number one, of course, was get your mind right. And I got to tell you this, most of these folks, men's and women's minds were right, but think about the impact that they have on the young 18, 22, 27-year-old man or woman, boy or girl, who's trying to figure out life and doesn't have their mind right. So I was leading the leader because so much of what I was speaking about was high-performance leadership, high-performance habits on them, for you and me, and for the young men and women who they influence. So get your mind right. We talked about leadership, and I've got 13 points I always share in my leadership talks, 13 points of leadership at a high level, what it takes, and the habits that it takes, including the exercises that one can do. Some of the exercises I've shared with you before on the show here, the 10 forms of wealth, 3 and 30 W lags. All of these things are part of leadership, but I also spoke of some of the things that would be applicable for sergeant majors in the Marine Corps. We also spoke about the standard is the standard. And I had the opportunity to hear one of the retired sergeant majors speak after me, and he talked about the standard is the standard. It's things as simple as making sure you get no bellies over your belt. No bellies over your belt. The standard is the standard. In the U.S. Marine Corps, there are no bellies over the belt. Man, I swelled up with pride. My chest went out. My shoulders went back. And I just had this deep sense of, thank God there's Marines and military across the country, across the world that protect our freedom. Because going to bed at night when that head hits the pillow and you're tired, like I was on Tuesday night and Wednesday, it sure is nice to know that our freedom is protected because of the men and women in our armed forces. The standard is the standard. And the last thing I was talking about with them is it's all about the energy you bring. The energy you bring. And many of these folks have been serving for 27, 30, 35 plus years in the Marine Corps. And what I shared was, it's one thing to have a great career and a storied career in the Marine Corps, but also, what does your legacy look like as a parent, as a spouse, as a human being, as someone who wants to give back? And I really challenge them to think deep about not only the people who they lead, but themselves. Because the leader of one, a leader of many. If you can't lead one, you can't lead any. And that was part of my message. And it was one of the highlights of my career to speak to these men and women. And the thunderous applause that I got when I was done. When I took a picture with them, I was like, who am I? Who am I to get up there and speak to these heroes, true heroes, like true heroes who have seen lots of action in Afghanistan and Iraq and all that they've seen and done? Well, it didn't stop there. One of the other things about speaking, it brings you opportunities many times that are interesting and powerful. And I had the opportunity that night to attend with them to go to the 8th and I parade at Marine Corps Barracks, Washington, D.C. Now, this is one of the most legendary parades of its kind because my brother Paul, who is a retired colonel in the Marine Corps, that's one step under a general, he had told me about this years ago. When I told him I had the opportunity to attend with the sergeant majors for their symposium, he said, "Oh, Todd, you absolutely need to go to this." So, thanks to Master Gunnery Sergeant Dan Jackson and Sergeant Major Ruiz, they brought me in as a special guest to the Commandant of the Marine Corps. The Commandant of the Marine Corps for this parade as a special guest. My friends, man, when I tell you here on the Impact Show podcast, if you have never been to the 8th and I parade, put it on your bucket list. It's a must-do. You talk about chills and goosebumps and spine tingling. This parade was unlike anything I've ever seen. It was the most magical 2 hours. I left there feeling so proud, so humble, so inspired that I could not sleep again on Friday night. And here I sit Saturday flying back to San Diego after just a crazy 4 days in the air, flying around, sleeping in airports, going to the 8th and I Marine Corps Parade, speaking to the Sergeant Majors. And I thought, isn't that life? There's highs and there's lows. There's lows and there's highs. And how you just get through the days, just like the retired Sergeant Major said, it's how you can maniacally focus on the here and the now and not worry about tomorrow and what tomorrow brings. But you can maniacally focus right now like a Marine would do in battle, in times of chaos and combat, when there's stuff going down everywhere around you, how you can slow your breath down and breathe and think clearly and deeply. And I got to tell you, when I left 8th and I in Washington, D.C., just last night, as I record this, I was one proud American and so grateful for the United States Marine Corps, for any military personnel of any branch in the armed forces. I say thank you. I say thank you. Because after a long week and an inspiring week, between speaking at Supplement King and firing up 75 of their franchise business owners and getting a great ovation there and really having the opportunity to connect with those amazing people, I always love going north to the border and connecting with my friends up in Canada, to finishing it here with the Marine Corps right outside Annapolis, Maryland, here in Washington, D.C. at the parade, and of course, Naval Academy, where the Sergeant Major Symposium took place all week. I'm so proud. And on this personal share today, I just say thank you. Thank you for listening in, letting me share a portion of, a glimpse of some of the highs and the lows. Because sometimes people are like, man, Todd, it's so easy here. It's you look at it on the outside and it seems like it just goes so seamless. But let me tell you, my friend, sometimes you got planes, trains, automobiles, and major delays, and every now and then, hopefully only once, you got to sleep in some airports and wake up with some sore knees and backs to pay the price. But when you look at what the military does for us, it pales in comparison to what these men and women do for our freedom. God bless you all. Thank you. I can't wait to connect with you real soon. Until next time, remember, train hard, eat right, sleep right, and live inspired. Go create impact, my friends. God bless you.